Okay, so welcome back to 返學 DSE, and we are now in chapter 11 talking about mitosis and meiosis. And to start with, I would like to talk about the genes and also the genome, how they are organized in our nucleus. And they are actually in the form of chromosome, which is a combination of the DNA and also proteins, because for DNA is the short form for deoxyribonucleic acid. And while the cell is not dividing, the chromosome exists as chromatin. It is dispersal form that is a more relaxed form, which allow the DNA to be replicated. And more importantly, is to allow the genetic information stored in the NAD can be read to synthesize protein. So this is what you observe in the microscope. That is, in the nucleus, you can see some darker color inside. That is the chromatin, not the chromosome, because chromosome can only be seen during the cell division. And as the cell division begins, the cell chromosome becomes shorter and thicker and easily visible. And each chromosome is in its duplicated state, which is two identical chromata. They are also known as the sister chromata, and they are linked with the centromere, because we would like to have an identical daughter cell as the parent cell. That's why we have to replicate the chromosome first. So let's use a diagram to illustrate the idea. This is what you commonly see in your textbook. That is a X-shaped chromosome. However, this shape is already in the duplicated state. Why? Because when it is separated to become these two daughter cells, each of them will have one chromosome. And normally, the mother cell should contain one chromosome only. Why it is already duplicated? It is because once it is divided, and each one will get a copy of the chromosome. So this is the normal case, while this one is the duplicated state. And as for more terms, there is a term called the homologous chromosome. In human body, there are 46 chromosomes, and they exist in pairs. So here is a pair of the homologous chromosome. The blue one indicates the chromosome from the father, while the purple one indicates the chromosome from the mother. And here is a pair of homologous chromosomes, that is from father and mother. And because the cell is going to divide, that's why the homologous chromosome is duplicated to form sister chromatin. So as indicated in the white box, there is a chromosome with a sister chromatin from fathers. Not fathers, okay? And during the cell divisions, there are two terms which we should also bear in mind. That is the diploid and also haploid. For diploid, it contains two sets of chromosomes from father and mother. And the best example will be our body cell, also known as the somatic cells. That is our normal cell. As for haploid, it contains only one set of chromosomes. And the example will be sex cell, also known as the gamete or sperm in human male, or ovum in the human female. So during the cell cycle, 90% of the time it is spent in the interphase. That is for cell growth. It will carry out its normal function and also prepare for the cell division. That is to synthesize protein and also produce new organelles and growth and also DNA replication. So once the mitotic or mitotic cell division starts, the DNA is already replicated. So mitotic cell division, the ultimate goal is to form identical with same number of and kind of chromosome with the parental cell, that is the mother cell. So it can be further divided into two stages, that is nuclear division and also the cytoplasmic division. For nuclear division, it contains prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and also telophase. And for cytoplasmic division, it is also known as the cytokinesis. This is the separation of the cytoplasm. So here is the text description for prophase, metaphase, and anaphase. In our normal exam, it is no longer required. But if you are aiming for very high marks or being excelled in biology, you may have a look in the text. Otherwise, you have a rough idea will be just fine. And for cytoplasmic division, for animal cells, the cell membrane will constrict inward, while for plant cells, the cell plate will go outward. So this is from in and out, while this is from out to in. And here are the importance of mitotic cell divisions. Because the daughter cell will be genetically identical, they can have the same structures and also the same functions, and it can be used for growth and repair. And for some organisms, they also use mitotic cell division for asexual reproduction. So how about mitotic cell division? The ultimate goal is to produce haploid gametes for sexual reproduction, and one parental cell will have 4 haploid daughter cells, and it can be divided into 2 stages. The first is the meiotic division, which involves the pairing and separation of homologous chromosome. For the second mitotic division, it contains the separation of sister chromata. And if you are not very familiar with the detailed description in between, you have to bear in mind these 2 phases will be just fine. And here is the detailed description for the meiosis 1, and you will get a diploid after that. And here is the detailed description for meiosis 2, and you will have haploids afterwards. So here are the importance of mitotic cell division. It will produce the haploid gamete cell, that is the sperms and also ova, and it will also produce genetic variation in gametes. This will increase the chance of survival when environment is changed. And why the gamete variation can be introduced is because of these 2 terms. You have to bear in mind these 2 terms. That is independent assortment of chromosome and also crossover happened in the prophase 1. If you are not familiar with these 2 phases and you are just aiming for exam, just recite these 2 terms. Otherwise, you can spend some time by reading the books in understanding it in a greater detail. So there are a lot of great reviews with animations available in the YouTube and also provided by your textbook. I suggest you guys to have a look so that you can be familiar with the mitosis and also meiosis. And more importantly is to understand the similarities and difference between these 2 processes. So how are we comparing these 2 processes? We will talk about whether there are pairing of chromosome, whether there are crossing over, when the sister chromata are separated, and the number of daughter cells and also the content in daughter cell. Sometimes we also ask you to extract the meanings from graphs similar to your textbook, so you have to read your textbook also. So here is an extract from the HAEA document. For the cell cycle and division, we have to understand nuclear division and also there are cytoplasmic division. And more importantly, the cell cycle is no longer required in your scope. As for the mitosis and also meiosis, remember that crossover is an important feature, happen only in meiosis. And what happens in meiosis and mitosis and meiosis is no longer that important. However, you have to remember the importance of these 2 processes and also how the genetic variation can be introduced in meiosis. So this will be the end of this revision materials. I hope we'll see you next time. Bye bye.